Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Brother Joseph. I want to come back to you with another message, this time talking about the law before Moses. All right. Now, there are a nice amount of people out there that do not know that the Most High had his righteous instructions, his laws in place way before Moses came on the scene. All right. Now, I'm not going to say the Most High was implementing every single last law that Moses and the Aaronic priesthood was bringing into play with the Levitical sacrifices and all these other laws. But I'm here to tell you today that there were a nice amount of these laws that the earlier believers of the Most High was following before Moses came into existence. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the scriptures. I'm going to start off with Genesis chapter 26. Genesis chapter 26, just to show you that the Most High had his laws in place from the very beginning. All right, quite a few of them. Genesis in the Hebrew means Bereshit. It is the beginning. All right, Genesis chapter 26 and verse 5, it said, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So it said right here from the very beginning that Abraham, which was before Moses, he said he kept the Most High's commands, he kept his charge, his statutes, and his laws. All right, that's what a lot of people today want to say, I keep his laws, statutes, commandments. Well, Abraham was keeping his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. All right, from the very beginning. So even that one scripture right there can already show you that they were keeping commandments before then. But I want to be able to share with you more than that. All right, so let's go to Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to start at verse number 1. It said, thus the heavens and the earth was finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, Yah ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. The Most High, from the very beginning, established the Sabbath day, whether it was with himself or even with the earlier believers. But this happened before Moses. All right. The Sabbath day didn't just come on the scene with Moses. See, the Most High, our Creator, he rested on the seventh day from all of his labor. So I have, and I don't see all the scriptures to prove this, but I have a very hard time believing that Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, Seth, all the early believers, it's really hard for me, and Noah, it's kind of hard for me to realize that they didn't keep the Sabbath. They didn't keep that day of rest. All right, I know that he definitely kept it when he was on the ark because he couldn't really do too much. All right, but even the ark rested. Let me go and show you this real quick. So you guys, excuse me for that one. Genesis chapter 8 and verse 4, it says, and the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Iraq. So even the ark had to take a rest on the 7th month. You know that number 7 has to deal with rest, complete, taking a cease. All right, so the ark rested on the 7th day. I mean the 7th month, excuse me. The Most High rested on the 7th day, and this was implemented back in Genesis. All right, so let's go to Genesis chapter 3 real quick. Genesis chapter 3, and we're going to start at verse number 17. And he said, and unto Adam, he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake, and the sorrow thou shalt eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth unto thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In thy sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it thou wast taken, for dust thou art, and unto the dust thou shalt return. The Most High gave Adam a commandment, all right, and he did not follow that commandment, so a punishment came after that. All right, so we see in the law of Moses, what we call the law of Moses is really the law of the Most High Yah. Okay, the Most High gave restrictions, and if we didn't follow those laws, our people, our ancestors, the children of Israel didn't follow those laws, then a punishment came afterwards. Same thing with Adam. All right, So this didn't just happen in the time of Moses, but let's continue though. All right, so he made Adam to die the same day. That was a punishment. Many of you saying, well, Adam didn't die the same day. He lived to be 930 years old. Well, if you know that in the book of Tehillim, Psalms, in the book of Peter, it said that a day with Yah is as 1,000 years. 1,000 years is one day unto the Most High. Adam was 930 years old. He did not cross over to day number 2. He died this very same day with Yah. All right. In our eyes, he lived 930 years. In the eyes, compared to scriptures or how Yah sees a day, he only lived for one day. All right. Or he died in the same day. Let me say that. All right. So that was his punishment. But let me get back to it. Genesis chapter 4. Let's go and talk about this for a second. All right. Genesis chapter 4, we're going to go to verse number 1. He said that Adam knew Eve, or Kawah, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yah. And she again bare him his brother Abel, and Abel was the keeper of the sheep, but Cain was the tiller of the ground. And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yah, and Abel he also brought of the firstling of his flocks and the fat thereof, and Yah had respect unto Abel and unto his offering. So we see that the Most High had respect unto Abel and his offering, because that's how did he have respect? Because he just said Cain just brought him an offering, but it said Abel brought him of the firstlings. All right, so let's go and tie that into a law that Moses had. Let's see which one came first. All right, Exodus chapter 13 and verse number 13. Exodus 13:13, it says, and every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb. All right, and if thou wilt not redeem it, thou shalt break its neck, and all the firstborn of man among thy children shalt thou redeem. The key part is verse number 13, in the very beginning, and every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with the lamb. Not just the part about redeeming with the lamb, but the fact that the Most High Yah wanted the firstlings. You see, later he wanted the firstborn. So Abel knew this. He had to know it some kind of way. You know, he brought the firstlings unto the Most High Yah. This was way before Moses. All right. He brought the firstlings. Okay. And even with this, with us, we got to give the Most High the first fruits of our praise, the first fruit of our increase. All right. We talked about that in the, the laws of wisdom. And what did he say in verse number 7? Let me get there. And in verse number 7, Genesis chapter 4:7, he said, if you doest well, he's talking to Cain, shalt thou not be accepted. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. He said, if you don't do well, sin lies at the door. Okay, so how can it be a sin if there was no laws? Because what's the definition of sin according to 1 John 3 and 4? Let's go there real quick. 1 John chapter 3 and verse 4. All right, I know you know this by heart. Just give me 1 second here. Moving a little slow right now. 1 John chapter 3 and verse 4. It says, whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. So how in the book of Genesis it says, if you do well, shall thou not be accepted. If you do not well, sin lies at the door. All right, lawlessness. All right, so let's continue though. Let's speed this up. All right, Genesis chapter 4 and verse 11. He talks about his punishment, how it's going to be cursed from the earth, which have opened up her mouth to receive thy brother's blood. When you till the ground, it shall not yield its strength. A fugitive and a vagabond that should be. So that's a punishment. The Most High handed out punishments in the laws of Moses, and he handed out punishments to the early believers before Moses. All right. And if you went to, and I don't know if some of you even believe in this book, but you believe, go to the book of Yashar, the book of the upright, you will see that you go to the whole detail of Cain and Abel fighting, going back and forth. But also it shows you about Enoch. Jasher chapter 3, it said Enoch was wrapped up into the instructions of Yah. What's the word instructions mean in Hebrew? Torah. So Enoch was teaching the instructions, and he was wrapped up in the instructions. The Most High had instructions that was given to the children of men before Moses came on the scene. All right, but let me hurry up, though, because I don't want to make this a long study. Genesis chapter 6 and verse number 8. It said, but Noah found favor or grace in the eyes of Yah. People want to look at it as grace came in when Paul came on the scene. All right, or when the Messiah came on the scene. But right here in the very first book, it said, but Noah found grace in the eyes of Yah. He found favor in the eyes of Yah. How did he find favor? Genesis chapter 7, verse 1. All right, he said, and Yah said unto Noah, come down in all thy house in the ark, for thee I have seen righteous before me in this generation. How was he considered right before the Most High? He was observing his ways. He was keeping his commandments. The Most High told him to build that ark. He was obedient. He followed his laws. All right. He seen him righteous. I want to go ahead. I want to continue though. I want to hurry up and try to get this in real quick. Bereshit for Genesis chapter 8 and verse number 20. He said, and Noah built an altar unto Yah and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl and offered burnt offerings unto the altar. So they didn't have to wait till Exodus to build the altar to start offering sacrifices unto Yah. They was doing it right here in the book of Genesis. All right, Bereshit from the beginning, Genesis chapter 9 and verse number 1. We see the commandment, and Yah, it said, bless Noah or Barak Noah, and said unto him, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Same commandment that he gave to the first man, Adam. So Noah, in a sense, was the leader of this new world. All right. Yah, the Most High, put it on him to be that person, to be the leader of his family and of the generation that was to come. All right. Be fruitful and multiply was a commandment that he gave. All right. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 1 real quick. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 29. Let's go and see what the commandment was from the beginning, or what meat was. All right. Let me go to Genesis chapter 9. Of course, if I was to keep reading to chapter 9, you will see that that's when they began to start eating meat. All right. The first meat in Genesis chapter 129, and he said, and Yah said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in it, which is the fruit yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. So now the Most High gives permission for us to eat flesh, or what people will call today meat, in Genesis chapter 9. All right. These commandments took place. We can say it because the Most High washed away all the vegetation. You can say that because you got different reasons on why you can go about why the Most High allowed them to eat meat. That's not the main point of this study right here. But let's get into the next one. All right. Go back to Genesis chapter 9. So I went away from it. He talked about eating meat or eating flesh, but it was stipulations concerned to that though. Genesis 9 and 4. It said, but flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall you not eat. It was given before Moses came on the scene. It was a law put in place that we are not supposed to eat blood. What happens when you take on blood? Let's go ahead and go to where Moses quoted that from. When you go to Leviticus chapter 7. Leviticus chapter 7. Leviticus 7 and verse number 6. Or 26, I'm looking for. He said, moreover, you shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be a fowl or a beast or any of your dwellings. Now, later on, he implements that same law he gave to Moses. He gave it to Noah first. All right, the same law he gave to Noah, he ended up giving it to Moses. That's what I wanted to say. All right, Leviticus chapter 7, just to throw one more on there. Leviticus chapter 7 and 17, sleek eye. Leviticus chapter 17 and verse 10. And whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. All right. So we are not supposed to eat blood. Number 14. For it is the life of all the flesh. The blood of it is the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, you should not eat the blood of the manner of flesh. For the life of all flesh is in the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off. I'm telling you today, whether you believe that you are children of Israel or whether you believe that you're not, or you are a Gentile, the other nations, you're not supposed to eat blood. He said it is the life in it. So when you're eating food that's not well done, you eating stuff that's not even half done, and you start eating all that blood, you become that animal. You take on the animal characteristics of the animal that you ate. These barbarians, these people that's in the mountains eating all this blood, and you wonder why they so aggressive. You wonder why they act like animals, because they took on the characteristics of the animal when they ate that person's blood. All right. So now that was in law. Do not eat the blood. We got the law of the firstlings. Let's go to the next law right here. Staying in Genesis chapter 9. Let's go back to it real quick. Genesis chapter 9 and verse number 5. It said, "And surely your blood of your lives will I require, and at the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of every man, and at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man's blood his blood shall be shed. For in the image of Yah he made him." So the scripture said right here, whosoever sheddeth man's blood, his blood shall be shed. That sounds like an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right? Go to Exodus 21, you will see that. But then you can also see that the Most High puts a death penalty in here. He's letting us know that you should not kill and you should not murder. And we see that in Leviticus chapter 24. Let's go there. We go into when it was shared with Moses, but we see that I'm giving you proof that it was shared with Noah first. All right. Leviticus chapter 24 and verse number 17. All right. And he said that he that killeth any man shall surely be put to death. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You kill somebody, you're going to be put to death. That's what he told Noah. He implements that with Moses. All right, just to show you that these laws didn't start with Moses. All right, there's a nice amount of ceremonial rites and things of that nature. Yes, you can say those probably started with Aaron because it was introduced in the tabernacle and the priesthood, all these different things of that nature. I can understand that. All right, so now let's go to Genesis chapter 17. Genesis chapter 17. Let's get that for a second. Genesis chapter 17 and verse 9. It said, "And Yah said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generation. And this is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you, and thy seed after thee, that every man child among you shall be circumcised. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of covenant between me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generation, he that is born in the house or bought with money, or any stranger which is not of thy seed." All right. He said, "He that is born in thy house and he that is bought with thy money must needs be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant." Verse 14, "And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul should be cut off from his people." Now, let's go to Exodus chapter 4 real quick. Let's go to Moses. We see that was implemented with Abraham. So you see these laws, it was given to Noah, it was given to Abraham. Moses are just inherited in some of these older laws. All right. Exodus chapter 4 and verse number 24. All right. This is when the Most High called Moses and was sending him back to go to the children of Israel to bring forth deliverance. Verse number 24. He said, "And it came to pass by the way in the end that Yah met him and sought to kill him." So the Most High called Moses to go do a work for him. And then the scripture said he sought to kill him. Why did the Most High seek to kill him? Verse 25, "Then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at his feet and said, Surely a bloody husband thou art to me. So let him go. Then said, A bloody husband that thou art, because of the circumcision." Moses didn't get one of his children circumcised. So as the Most High was sending him on this journey to go bring the children of Israel out of Egypt, he said, first you got to do this circumcision. And they said, Yah met him by the way and sought to kill him because he didn't circumcise his child. So Moses, the law of circumcision, Moses was keeping the law that was given to Abraham. All right. And when you go to the Passover, chapter 12, let's go there real quick. Exodus chapter 12, when it talks about all the circumcised. When you go to Exodus chapter 12, it says the ordinances or the rights for the Passover in verse 44. "But every man's servant that is brought for money when thou hast circumcised him, then he shall eat. A person wasn't supposed to be able to eat the Passover until they fulfilled the law that was given to Abraham, not to Moses. Abraham first instead of Moses. Let me say that, not to Moses. All right. So we see that we got the law concerning murder, we got the law concerning blood, we got the law concerning circumcision, we got the other laws that I mentioned before that. Now let's go to this one real quick. Genesis chapter 20. Genesis chapter 20 and verse 1. And Abraham's journey from there towards south country and dwelt in Kadesh and Shur and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said to Sarah his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But Yah came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said unto him, behold, thou art dead man, for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near to her. And he said, Yah, would you also slay also a righteous nation? Said not he unto me, she is my sister? And even she herself said, he is my brother. And in the integrity of my heart and the innocency of my hands have I done this. Pay attention to verse number 6. And Yah said unto him in a dream, yeah, I know that thou did this in thy integrity of thy heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore, I allowed you not to touch her. So he said, I held you from sinning against me. What is the definition of sin? The transgression of the law. What was the sin that Abimelech was going to commit? Laying down with another man's wife, which is called adultery. All right. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 39 real quick. And we already know in Exodus 20 and 14, thou shalt not commit adultery. So I don't need to go there. All right. But Genesis chapter 39, let's go ahead and get this there as we get ready to wrap this study up. All right. Genesis chapter 39 and verse 7. And then this is talking about Joseph. He said, it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, lie with me. But he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in this house, and he hath committed all that he has into my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither have he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against Yah? Joseph said, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against Yah? What was the sin that Joseph would have been committing? Committing adultery. Adultery was a sin before Moses even came on the scene. All right, so this is just to give you some quick education on this. All right, let me throw one more on here real quick. The law before Moses. Let me throw one more last scripture here. This is what Abraham gave this as an instruction, but you see that this actually turned out to be a law later on down the line. All right, Genesis chapter 24. And this is when he was sending out a wife for Isaac. All right, verse number 1. And Abraham was old and was well stricken in age, and Yah had baraked Abraham in all things. And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house that ruled over all he had, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh. Verse number 3. And I will make thee swear by Yah, the most high of heaven, the most high of the earth, and thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. So Abraham gave instructions to his servants, please do not let my son be married to the daughters of the Canaanites. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and see this real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 7. You see how this is a law before Moses came onto the scene. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse number 1. And when Yah your Elohim shall bring you into the land which you go to possess, and have cast out many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mighty than you. And when Yah your Elohim shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter shalt thou not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. The law was not to marry the Canaanites again. Along with the other 6 nations, you see that Abraham said something first, and then it was reinstituted with Moses. All right, so I just wanted to share this quick video with you to share with you that Moses was not the inventor of all these laws. The Most High did not wait for Moses to come on the scene to instruct mankind with all these different laws and principles to live by. He was giving them to the earlier patriarchs as well. And I'm not going to get into the other books, but some people don't believe in things. You know, people was keeping feasts and things of that nature. But these were given to the earlier ancestors, all right? And then they were passed on. Moses got a hold of them. We call it the law of Moses. It's really the law of Yah that goes all the way back from everlasting, all right? So with that said, I pray the Most High be with each and every single one of you. Until the next time we meet again, I say shalom, shalom.